Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. So today is a very busy planting day. I have a little cardboard box here of some seeds, and we're just gonna make our way out to the greenhouse because that's where all the transplants are hanging out right now. So we gotta get the tomatoes in the ground, we gotta get the peppers, and then a whole bunch of seeds. I'm just so glad that it's this time of the year again and that we can plant a garden, and soon the garden will be in full production. But yesterday we got a little bit further on the chicken coop. So let me show you. So this is what it looks like. That's the first coat of white paint on. The run has some of the wire on it. This will be stapled down and then more continued outwards to probably about here, and then we're going to cover it in wood chips around. But yeah, this is the end of the run, and there's going to be a door here, but we're still figuring that out. And then half of the run is going to be covered with the same roofing that's on the coop, and then half of it open. But yeah, I think it's looking really good. These chickens are already so spoiled. Let me just show you the transplants. They're quite large. So this is just some of the tomatoes. I still have another tray inside. Yeah, it's quite a bit. So these are going over there into the raised bed garden. And then some of the peppers are gonna go in here. So this is just a 9x13 little greenhouse. It gets really warm in here during the day, so I think I'm going to open up those little windows, and then I've been keeping this front door open to kind of keep the airflow in, but it'll be good for those chilly nights. But yeah, so we have the weed fabric on the floor, and then some wood chips, and then soil. So when I actually dig into here, when I go to put the peppers in, when I dig through that soil, I'll show you what I mean, but I'm going to poke a hole or burst a hole through the weed fabric down below the wood chips and everything, because the root system of some of the peppers is going to go a heck of a lot deeper than a couple inches. So this way, at least, I can start amending the soil. Eventually this weed fabric will disintegrate, but for now it helps me aid to the nutrition of my plants and the soil here that's already here. Unfortunately, the soil that is here is like really heavy clay. They used to have a farm here, but when they updated the house that is just behind us, they had raised the entire land quite a bit, and what they used was clay. Like, it's a clay fill, so wasn't the greatest, but that doesn't mean that the soil is like done. Like, it still means that we can use it. All we have to do is amend it and fix it, and that's it. So it's really early morning. It's about 6-ish a.m. I'm just looking at our garden here, and this is not done. We still have quite a few more raised beds to make, but this is what we have for right now. Hopefully by the end of this week we'll have some more to add on to this garden, but let me show you what we're working with. So these are the two roses that are going to come up on our climbing trellis. Now we've just finished this log raised bed. I'm actually in love with it. This is where the tomatoes are going to go, and these are just some logs from the forest just back there, and then we filled up the log bed with some soil. We still have to put a cattle panel across here for the trellis, but that's okay. And then these are the garden beds we're currently working with. Now we still need another fourth one over there, and then there's going to be about 4 more beds that way, another one of those log beds this way, and then we put up these archway trellises here for beans and peas, anything climbing really. But yeah, we just used what we got, spray painted the T-posts, everything looks great. Alrighty, so we're here in the greenhouse, and my battery died while I was filming, so I got a couple in, but we still have the rest of the entire greenhouse to plant. So these are the couple that I got in. I figure we can just continue from there. So I just grabbed myself another pepper here. And there's actually two. So that's what it kind of looks like when your plant's getting root bound. This is not essentially what you want, because you can see their roots coming around the bottom here and then they're going up. This is essentially like a block of roots right now. There's no more soil. So I'm just tearing it apart because I have two here. Yeah, so you just gotta be mindful when starting seedlings. We had to wait a little bit longer because we were trying to actually build the garden. Everything just took a little bit longer, I guess, this year. So essentially what I'm doing is digging down until I hit the weed fabric, and I'm just ripping a hole through that weed fabric to ensure that their root system can go beyond the few inches of soil that I've put in here. Now, this pepper got topped accidentally, actually, because one of my dogs was playing and just bumped into it. But that doesn't mean it can't grow. Right there, it's starting to bush out. So instead of wasting it and not trying, we're gonna see if we can get something. Because if you don't try, you won't get anything. But if you do try, you may get something. So I'm spacing these guys about like 10 inches apart. So 6 inches is about here, 7-inch. So they're about like 10 to 12 inches apart, most of them. You can space peppers quite close together just because they really like to hold hands. Their roots are okay to cross, and they actually kind of give a little bit of support to each other. That's just what I find. Back in Hamilton, where we used to live, I actually spaced them about like 6 to 8 inches. They did absolutely fine. Again, I fertilized, but for here, I'm hoping to not have to fertilize too much and just kind of let them sprawl out a little bit more, have a little bit more space. Here's my leggy pepper plant, but they're still pretty strong. So I got two peppers here, and I'm going to separate them. I'm just going to take the tag and put it where I'm going to put the pepper. Just going to dig one hole. And then kind of measure, dig the next one. I don't want to push the peppers like too far back against the greenhouse wall, because if I do that, then they might start to push on the bars and I may not be able to reach them without stepping on the soil, which is what I don't want to do. So that's a bit healthier of a root ball here. Like, they're not wrapped around the base of the pot. So I'm just gonna tease these out. And how I separate them is I put one thumb on one plant, one thumb on the other, and then cup underneath like this. And then slowly just pull apart so that they each have some roots. And then I just close the soil over top. These guys are going to get a really good water in here. Okay. I'm just going to place this tag in between the two so I know that both of them are the same variety. So just right there is going to be our first peppers. So those little buds turn into the flowers. And that's what the flowers look like open. Now, you necessarily don't want this on your seedlings. These have just been started so long ago that they are flowering. So I'm just getting them in the ground now. All right, so we're finished. All these peppers are planted and ready for some water. I think I'm just gonna set up the sprinkler in here and let it go crazy. Really saturate the soil. So the sprinkler's been going for a few minutes and everything looks pretty saturated. So I think it's time to go plant the tomatoes. Alrighty, so we have quite a few tomatoes here. Yeah. So I'm just gonna pick out some of these and place them along this bed where we're gonna plant them. Tomatoes need at least a foot between each other. And if you're not doing much pruning, which I'm hoping to not do too much pruning on these guys, then you're definitely going to want a little bit more space. Now, I don't expect all of these tomatoes to fit into this bed. That's why I have extra beds back there. And we're making more as we speak. So, yeah, I'm just gonna see how many fit along in this bed and we'll go from there. So gardening does not need to be an exact science by any means. This hori knife is 12 inches long. Probably just going to go a little bit past this and we'll see what happens. It doesn't have to be an exact science. You don't need to get your tape measure out and measure. Gardening's supposed to be fun, so let's have some fun. This is just a sucker I put into water. So the suckers grow in the armpits of the plants. And what happens is you can pop these guys off and pop them into some water and you'll have new tomato plants. I just put them in this paper cup, labeled it, and then we have effortless tomato plants. There are many varieties of tomatoes, and there's indeterminate, which have an indetermined height, and determinate, which have a determined height and determined amount of fruit. All of these are all indeterminate tomato plants, which means that I do need to trellis them well. And they are, I think all of them, except for maybe like 2, are heirloom varieties that I've started from seed. What it means is I can collect the seeds from the tomatoes and then start more and more seeds, getting the exact same plant over and over again, versus a hybrid or that's not open pollinated. If you collect the seeds, you'll still get a tomato plant. It just might not be the exact one that you started with. With all that said, I'm going to start planting these in this bed just behind me. Let me show you how I really like to plant my tomatoes. So first I dig the hole. Now I like to dig and plant my tomatoes pretty deep. So here I'm just separating 2 plants that I got from a local nursery. I put my thumb on either stem to make sure I don't snap the stem, and then just pull, slowly pulling them apart. Now this is really dry. This definitely will need a really good water. So I just cover them pretty deep, and I'm going to take off these bottom leaves here to make sure that when I water, the water doesn't bounce back up on the leaves and cause disease. So my camera died, but I did put an egg in the bottom of the hole. I completely forgot. I always add an egg in the hole for the tomato plants just to make sure that they have enough fertilizer, and I've heard that it kind of prevents a few things, so like disease and such. But yeah, we'll go put these at the bottom of the holes. So let's plant some tomatoes. I'm gonna time lapse it because this will take me a few minutes. Now, see how long this tomato stem is? Now, because all of these are quite short, and I'm going to plant this deep in order to give this plant the best chance and a better root structure. So I'm just going to pop off these bottom leaves, just like that. And then I'm going to take my shovel, make sure it's spaced properly. And I'm going to pretty much dig a really deep hole. In addition to there being indeterminate and determinate varieties, there's also different type of leaf varieties. So this one right here is a tomato leaf variety versus one of the other tomatoes that I'm going to pop up on the screen here, which is a potato leaf variety. There isn't too much of a difference between the two. One isn't better than the other, but just different varieties. Shove it down in there and then enclose the soil around. Now, this soil is really dry. We're currently in a major heat wave right now. Not the best time to be planting your tomatoes in a heat wave, or anything for that matter, but they have to get in the ground. They're way too big for their pots and I don't want to risk killing them. But with that said, if you have to plant during a heat wave or any hot weather, you definitely want to give this a really good drink right after you plant them. Okay, so we've set up this soaker hose that is kind of acting like irrigation here, and will definitely water all the plants for us. So it kind of saves me from doing it by hand. And so I think this is where I'm going to end it. The heat has come out and it is hot. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're going to work on this chicken coop, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.